Today we're talking about 7.7 functions and equations. All right, so there's a couple things that we're going to talk about today that you're writing down in your notes right now. The first one is a function. It says for every input there is only one output. So you want to make sure, and you'll kind of understand it here in a bit, only one thing will come out whenever there is a function. Something you're going to want to memorize and know for quizzes coming up. The domain will always be your x, and this is going to be your input values. So the x or the domain and input values are all the same thing. Your range is going to be the y, and that will be your output values, or what comes out after you put something in. Evaluate the function y equals 5x for the given value of x. So we are talking about a specific function. These instructions are asking us to do it with y equals 5x. So the first thing you're going to do down here is we're just going to go ahead and start off with our function. Now it has asked us to evaluate it for what the given value of x is. Whatever x is going to be this thing right here that it gives you as your original problem. So let's just do a real quick reminder. What does it mean when you have a number right next to a letter?
Multiply.
You got to multiply them together, okay? So all I'm going to be doing right now is replacing that x with what number?
7.
7. So should I stick it there like this?
No.
What should I do?
Put parentheses around 7.
Put parentheses around it because that's telling me that I need to multiply it, okay? So I have my x, which is my input. I'm putting in the 7. Now we got to see what our output is, or what's going to come out. Guys, what's 5 times 7?
35.
35. So that is my output, or that is my range. Y equals 35. Next one, we're going to use the same function once again, which is y equals 5x. What should the next part say?
Y equals 5 parentheses negative 3.
Okay, instead of saying 5 parentheses negative 3, let's just say 5 times negative 3, okay? Anytime that I have one negative number, my answer is always going to be?
A negative.
Negative, okay? So what's the answer?
Negative 15.
Y equals negative 15. Number 2, it asks us to make an input-output table for the function using the domains -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Do you guys remember when we talked about this domain? Look in your notes. Which one is the domain, the x or the y?
Y.
Which one is it?
X.
The x, okay? That's something you're going to want to memorize. Know that your domain will always be your x. Then it asks you to state the range of the function. So, as you can see right here, I have how many numbers that I'm going to be plugging in as my domain or as my x?
4. 5.
How many is that?
6. That's 5. That's 5.
5, okay? So what we're going to do to start with is we are going to rewrite our function 5 times. All right, so once you've written it 5 times, we are going to make an input and an output table. The input, is the input my x or my y? What's it say in your notes? Look at your notes.
Y.
X.
No, X.
So, input is going to be x. What's the output called? Y. So now we're going to make a table for this. This says right here, my domain is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Remind me again, look at your notes if you don't remember. What is my domain, the x or the y? The x. So I'm going to go ahead and write my 5 domains down. So we have now started out with our inputs. Now what's going to happen, you can see over here, I have my x's. I'm going to get rid of those x's and input what it has asked me to input. So the very first one, let's just go ahead and erase this x. What should I be putting there instead?
Negative 2.
-2, okay? So notice you're just taking this and you're basically sticking it in right over there. What will the next one be?
Negative 1.
-1, so erase that x and let's stick in a -1. Once again, it's because it's just from here and you're plugging it in to where your x is, or you're inputting it into our function. Next up, what will I put?
0.
0, the next one,
1.
and the last one.
2.
Very good. As you can see in your chart right here, your table, we have all of the inputs, but we need to figure out what the output is. The output will always be your y. So basically it's going to be whatever those answers are right there. So let's talk about the first one right here. -2 plus 4. Remember our rules. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. Do I have the same sign or a different sign here?
Different.
Different. Subtract the numbers, take the sign of the larger number. What do you get?
2.
2. So your answer for your output or your range is a 2. Let's go to the next one. -1 plus 4. What is that?
3.
3. Go to the next one. This one's pretty simple. 0 plus 4.
4.
That is 4. Next one, 1 plus 4.
5.
And the last one,
6.
6. Now, what I want you to do is look to see, when you had your output, do you guys see any kind of a pattern there?
Yes.
What is it?
They're all going like 2.
So you have to add 1. Every single one, add 1. So if we had done another one down here, if my next input had been 3, what would this part be right there? 7. Very good job. So here's the deal. If while you're doing it, you're going through and you get your answers over here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's say instead you got right here and you got a 10. This should be a clue to you that something went wrong because there was a pattern and then all of a sudden the pattern didn't look right, okay? So this is how you make an input-output table. Let's go ahead and draw a box around it because we are finished with that. Let's go ahead and try another example just like this, okay? So once again, my domain, there's going to be 5 numbers that I'm inputting into it. So we want to go ahead and rewrite our original function 5 times. All right, after you do that, now we're going to go ahead and do an input-output table. So we've got to have our X and Y chart. Same instructions that we had before. What are my 5 domain numbers that it wants me to use?
-2, -1, 0, 1, and 2.
Very good job. Okay, so typically those are going to be the inputs that you're putting in. Now I've got to figure out what comes out or what my Y will be. Instead of an X here on this first one, what am I going to put? Okay, so should it just go 3, -2, -1?
No.
What should it be?
It should be parentheses around it.
You want to have parentheses around it because that tells you you have to multiply. All right, so let's start this first part right here. What is 3 times -2? -6, not regular 6, because there's one negative. Remember, the negative always wins, so your answer will be negative. So then you've got -6 minus 1. -7 is correct. Okay, so your output is going to be -7. I want you guys to go ahead and try the next 4 on your own. Remember, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and get rid of those X's and then start plugging in the numbers that you need to input. Don't forget to put those parentheses there. All right, let's see what you got. 3 times -1 was -3 minus 1.
4.
-4. Okay, let's just try to come up with a pattern right here. What happened right here? -7 and -4. +3. It was getting bigger, even though they're negatives. I added 3. Okay, let's go to the next one. 3 times 0. 0 minus 1. -1. How did I get from a -4 to a -1?
+3.
I added 3. So notice our pattern is still working out. Okay, next up, 3 times 1.
2. No, 3.
3, and then minus 1.
2.
2. Okay, how did I get from a -1 to a 2?
+3.
I added 3. Final one. 3 times 2
6.
minus 1.
5.
5. How did I get from a 2 to a 5?
+3.
You added 3. Okay, so notice you have the same exact pattern. You do not have to write your pattern over here, but it's nice just to kind of double check it to see if it worked out. All right, so now you're just going to put a box around it because that is your input-output table. This next problem is a review from something we learned a couple days ago. So number 1 says, tell whether the value of m is a solution to the inequality x is less than or equal to 3. I want you to make sure that you understand what these symbols say, because coming up on your quiz and test next week, you're going to have to identify what that says right there, okay? So what does that one say right there? Less than or equal to. Just remember, anytime that you see this little line underneath it, that simply means an equals to, okay? So the inequality it's asked us to use is x is less than or equal to 3. Now, this right here is my value for x. So on the next line, you're just going to simply plug it in. And then let's see, this says 5 is less than or equal to 3. Do you believe that is a solution that can work?
No.
No, it is not. Why not?
Because 5 is greater than 3.
Because 5 is greater than 3. It is not less than 3. So no, that is not a solution to that inequality. Try problem B on your own. All right, as I walked around, I saw a lot of people with the correct answer. What is the answer, yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
Because 3 equals 3.
The answer is definitely yes, because 3 does equal 3. So that can be a solution to that inequality. Number 2, final review problem of the day, asks us to solve the inequality and then graph the solution. I want you guys to try this on your own. If you don't remember how to do it, pull out your notes and that can help you. Let's see how we got. We need the p to be alone. How do I get rid of plus 2?
Minus 2.
Minus 2. You got to be fair to both sides. What are you left with?
2 minus 8.
P equals, 6.
P is
Less than or equal to 8. P is less than or equal to 8.
P is greater than
stop.
or equal to 6.
I want you guys to carefully look at that sign. Read me what the sign
P
says.
is greater than or equal to 6.
Okay, listen. This right here, you can see, is greater than this tiny point. So because this is right here greater than this tiny point right here, this is red, greater than, okay? If you don't know those symbols yet, you've got to learn those. You have to know what those are, okay? So we're going to put greater than or equal to what? 6. Do I need to flip the symbol?
No.
Why not?
Because this ain't divided or multiplying.
You only do it when you divide or multiply both sides by a what? Negative number. So let's box that in. If you forgot to box yours in, go ahead and fix that for me, please. How many points are on my graph?
3.
3. What do the 3 numbers say?
5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7. Is this open or closed?
Closed.
Why is it closed?
Because it has an equal sign under.
There's an equal sign, which means that 6 could be an answer up here. So you want to put a dot on it, okay? Now, what else would make sense? Could I put a 5 up there or could I put a 7 up there?
7.
Okay, so you're telling me 7 is greater than or equal to 6. Does that make sense?
Yes.
How do we double check it?
To make sure the sign is going the same
Look at the
direction
way
as
your
the
arrow is going. It looks like a greater than. This also looks like a greater than. Therefore, you did do it correctly. Okay? So those are a couple kind of review problems that you're going to want to know for your quiz coming up on Monday.